Hi, I'm Sanyin Siang. I'm the Executive Director of the Coach K Leadership and Ethics Center at the Fuqua School of Business. And
I'm Tejumade Ajasa, the Assistant Director for the Center on Leadership and Ethics.
And we're really excited to be here and answer any questions that you may have regarding the center, which is known as COLE. So let me start off with a little bit background about the center. We were started in 2004 because we saw something that was happening in the world, which is the context in which leaders are leading has completely shifted. It's become a more complicated and complex environment. There's more global interdependencies. There's greater uncertainties. It's become more of what we see as a VUCA world: volatile, uncertain, chaotic, and ambiguous. And in a VUCA world, while the core aspects of leadership, which are character, trust, integrity, those never change. There's other things that might be considered. And so in 2004, we launched the Fuqua Coach K Center on Leadership and Ethics to basically examine what are those changes in leadership and explore those, and be able to infuse those insights into our student leader development experience, because we see that as an educational institution, we have an obligation, a responsibility to develop the type of leaders that the world needs.
So like Sanyin said, for the past 13 years, since 2004, COLE has been in the forefront of helping to shape the leadership fabric, discourse, and culture at Fuqua. And that was focusing on developing leaders of consequence, a leader that is competent, a leader that demonstrates character and purpose. So how do we view leaders and leadership at COLE? We see leadership as being based in a set of behaviors that can be practiced and learned. It is less about position and hierarchy, but more about persuasion and influence. We see leadership as being leading one's superiors and peers as much as it is leading your direct reports, and also about being a leader on a team as well as being a good team member. So our goal at Fuqua and at COLE is to provide our students with opportunities to focus their attention on building those behaviors that can contribute to attaining such leadership outcomes like character, like Sanyin mentioned, trust, and sometimes a sense of community.
I want to double down on what Teju said, which is how we view leadership. It's not position or title. You are a leader today, and you can influence, and the way you influence is you're influencing not only down, but you're influencing your peers, and you're influencing upwards. I want to connect that back to the context in which we operate today. It's a more decentralized environment, and so in that context, you need to be able to lead and influence in a 360 way. And because it's behaviorally focused, you have agency to change your behavior. Everybody does. And that's why leadership, in that sense, it can be taught. We can maximize the effects that you want to achieve, that of credibility, building trust, building a sense of community, and we can help you shift your behavior so that you can maximize those effects. So let's take a look at the questions.
Look at the questions.
Oh, this is a good one. Why is there a Leadership and Ethics Center? Well, leadership, when we started, we realized that people can see leadership just as making things happen, but we see leadership as it's unequivocally undergirded by ethics. Leadership, it's not only about making things happen, it's making good things happen, things that can have positive impact. So there's a phrase we use: leadership without ethics has no heart, and ethics without leadership has no legs. So you have to have both. And here at Fuqua and COLE, we care deeply about creating that strong pairing. And speaking of pairings, one of the things that was launched a few years ago by some of our students who at that time, there's the MBA student, the MBA president, and his vice president, who was a COLE leadership fellow, is the series of what we call Fuqua's paired principles. And those paired principles takes into account some words that may be in opposition with one another and pull them together more closely. So I'll just list all 6 of them. One is authentic engagement. The authenticity, the integrity, so important. Authentic engagement. Supportive ambition. We usually think about ambition as a sole endeavor, but supportive ambition puts it back into something we care so deeply about here, which is team. It's not only about individual advancement, it's about collective advancement. Supportive ambition, collective diversity. We value diversity and inclusion here. And not only do we value it, we embrace it, we leverage it. So this collective diversity, it's another one of those pairings. Impactful stewardship. Are you going to be able to leave a place better than you found it? So this idea of stewardship and legacy is so key to the way we think. Loyal community, and the last one is uncompromising integrity. And that's self-explanatory. Speaking of unlikely pairings, something to think about is the idea of team and individual. I remember when we first started, students see leadership as antithesis to team because they saw leadership as command and control, and team as, if someone is slacking off, it's about picking up their slack. When Cole came about in 2004, we fused leadership and team together. Leadership is about empowering others, and team is about holding each other
accountable. Yep.
And recognizing the interdependencies of all the team members, helping each other bring their strengths to the foreground, and also complement each other's weaknesses. So together, we're stronger. So leadership and team actually go hand in hand, and that's a firm belief we have at Cole. Do you want to talk about the end-to-end?
Yes. So when to piggyback on what I mentioned earlier, that we provide opportunities for our students to be able to focus their attention on building behaviors to help with their leadership development. Fuqua and Cole have put together an end-to-end portfolio for students that kind of like captures all the available leadership opportunities that students can can engage in while they're here to help build that, to help make their journey more transformational and more intentional and more integrative. Some of the end-to-end programs that are available to our students that will help them engage, lead, and reflect are our Leadership Core Experience, which is run by our co-leadership fellows, and we'll talk about later on. But basically, the co-leadership fellows are second-year students. They will be your peers that lead these programs, and it's an opportunity for students to be able to, what am I trying to say? To be able to engage and give them an opportunity to take some time out of their busy schedule, out of their recruiting process, and just come together and learn about their personal development styles, the different leadership styles, meet with C-suite level speakers, mid-level managers, alumni who come to Fuqua they come to Fuqua, they do a presentation in small groups, they talk about what they've learned on the job and how those can be transferred to, what am I trying to say?
How can it be applied in their everyday experiences?
In their everyday experiences. Thank you, Sanyin.
It's okay. That's over a team. So, I guess this is a good time to, so on the end-to-end experience, we see leadership development as intentional and integrative. So instead of it just being a smattering of different experiences, it's about how each experience builds on one another throughout your entire 2 years here. when you talk, I guess this would be a good time to talk about the co-leadership fellows.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. So let me start, Sanyin.
Okay, you can do
Thanks, Sanyin. So the co-leadership fellows is one of the premier groups of students. I won't call it a club, but a premier group of students that act as mentors, facilitators, and coaches for all first-year students. They are carefully selected through an interview process, and they're about 44 second-year students that will be available to all first-year students to help them grow in this leadership development journey, which is also, like we mentioned before, is a transformational journey. They will help students with their personal development plan. And what is the personal development plan? It's actually a process where students are able to explore their values and beliefs. They're able to examine their strengths and weaknesses. And with all this information they have gathered, they will be able to set challenging, measurable personal development goals that the co-leadership fellows will be able to give them feedback on. And this is a plan also that will help you, will keep you accountable on your leadership development journey, and also it's something that you can actually tweak. So as you go through the process, through the end-to-end program, you'll be able to refer back to your PDP plan and see if you are actually meeting those SMART goals that you have set for yourself.
So one of the questions we usually get asked, because a lot of prospective students have heard about the co-leadership fellows, is how one becomes a co-leadership fellow. Each class, as part of this idea of impactful stewardship, each class choose their successor. So each class of fellows, they go through every year around springtime. First years will apply to be co-leadership fellows in their second year, and in the application process, it's an intensive application process, and each class of current co-fellows go through that interview, and together as a class deliberate the composition, the makeup of their successive class of co-leadership fellows. The fellows receive intensive training through COLE in terms of upping their leadership development, and in the process of them serving as coaches and mentors and facilitators for their first year teams, and also as stewards of the leadership culture here, that application of their leader development, in doing that, it's also a transformative process for them. Teju had mentioned some of the other things that, besides being a co-fellow, how are you able to engage as a first-year student coming into Fuqua with COLE? Well, one, COLE impacts all first-year MBA students through their interaction with our co-fellows, through developing your PDP plan, personal development plan, through working with the co-fellows, through working with your teams. The other things are, there's the leadership cohort experience, which you talked about. It's a smaller group setting, and we bring in chief executives and mid-level managers to talk about their leadership experiences. And there's 25 to 50 per cohort each term. And that is a program that Cole and our leadership fellows put together. There's also a variety of other programs for that first years can engage in, but I want to make something clear, which is you don't have to be a co-fellow to be actively engaged in leadership at Fuqua. I mean, that's the beauty of this place. You can exercise your leadership based on your passion, your energy, and where your strengths are. And that's being a co-fellow is one avenue, engaging with COLE is one avenue, and there's also other fellows like the marketing fellows or the admissions fellows or
marketing fellows
or the case fellows. That's with the Center for Advancement of Social Entrepreneurship. It's a wonderful community here that provides different opportunities for you to exercise your leadership and create your own leadership adventure.
Yeah, yeah, and just to add to what Sanyin said is we always encourage our students to make their 2 years here, make it count, rather than it being transactional, make it transformative, make it intentional, and all this will serve you in the long run.
Purpose is such a key aspect. By the way, when you say make it count, that reminds me of what our friend General Marty Dempsey usually says, which is make it matter.
Make it matter.
General Martin Dempsey is the 16th chair of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and he is co-teaching a course here at Fuqua around leadership, and he's co-teaching that course with our faculty director for the center and one of our center's co-founders, Sim Sikin. And General Dempsey is also a co-senior fellow.
Yeah.
And these are the type of leaders that we are engaging to help us understand how do we develop the leaders for tomorrow and what society needs tomorrow.
Yeah, and just to add to what Sanyin mentioned about, in addition to General Dempsey, we do attract and engage with a lot of leaders in different industries, in different sectors, and their thoughts and their insights count. That's what makes the work we do at COLE very impactful. We rely on their insights. It's also an opportunity for us to bring the outside in, and that way we can learn from, ask them this question, what exactly are they looking for in their employees? And we bring that back into the classroom and help with our students' leadership development at Fuqua.
So as an example, each year we take on a theme, and this year our practitioner theme is going from a linear thinking to ecosystem mindset. And that's reflective of the complexities that we see in the world today and how we have to engage different points of view and also think through not only the first order effects of our actions, but also anticipate the second, third, and fourth order. And on the practitioners, as Teju said, we bring in a diversity of leaders from different backgrounds, everyone from military to sports to finance and healthcare. And leadership actually is a horizontal. It runs through, it's about human behavior. So it runs through all those industries, and you can start seeing patterns of leadership challenges and opportunities. So imagine this practitioner engagement coupled with a super powerful academic undergirding that is the research by our management faculty here and also faculty outside of management. So John Graham, who is a professor in finance, he is also one of our center scholars. Daniel Rialli, who is, you may know his work from behavioral economics, he's also another center scholar. You think about all of that practitioner insight coupled with academic research and undergirdings, and that's what we're bringing to COLE and to our students.
You have any other questions?
Well, one of the questions here is, why is Coach K's name affiliated with the Center of the Business School? So Coach K is it's the legendary basketball coach who's known worldwide. He is perhaps he is the winningest coach in college basketball,
yes,
and he is also the coach for the USA men's basketball team and took them to 3 Olympic golds over the last 12 years. He is also a New York Times bestselling author on books such as Leading from the Heart, and an entrepreneur. He's a philanthropist and a visionary. He created the Emmy Krzyzewski Center and also co-founded Power Forward and of course our center. So the reason why his name is affiliated with this Center of the Business School was back in 2004. We looked over athletics and we looked over at what Coach K stands for. And he's often said that the basketball court is the platform that he has, what he is always, his lifelong constitution is as a teacher of leadership. And when we look at what he stands for, always the values, integrity, teamwork, it was like a marriage made in heaven. Who better to represent what we stand for in terms of leadership and teamwork than Coach Mike Krzyzewski. And so Coach K's name is on the center. Coach K is also an executive in residence with Fuqua and through Cole. And so once a year, or a couple of times a year, he will come and give a talk with the students. He is also actively engaged in Cole's practitioner programs. And if you think he is wonderful, wait till you meet him. He is better than you even expected. Well.
Yeah, and another thing I like about Coach is that he is a continuous learner. And no matter how, he believes in learning every day. He learns from his players, he learns from his team in the office, and he's just a stand-up person. And like Sanyin said, he is a really great guy.
And he uses his platform for societal good, right? Casts attention on positive societal issues. So with the Emmy Krzyzewski Center, that's about giving college access, making the college dream a reality for first-generation college hopefuls. He exemplifies what we mean by leader of consequence. And as we bring other people into the center, they too exemplify that. So General Marty Dempsey is another person that comes to mind, as well as our board members.
Yeah.
So let's see. Other questions that you may have? Well, were there things that we wanted to mention that we didn't get a chance to mention?
Yes, one more thing. My executive director wrote a book. She is a first-time author, actually second time, but this is her big pet project. Now, she actually launched a book in August called The Launch Book, which gives actually motivational ideas on how to launch your next idea, next big idea at your business or in your next career. Talks about failures, talks about Launch Tribe. And you know, since I have the author close by, why don't I just let her talk a little bit about her launch book and see how that could apply to your development as well.
So the launch book actually stemmed from the last 10 or so years of stories from engaging with leaders, top leaders, who have now become friends of the center and friends with the center. And it goes through what's the mindset that's needed to launch. And it's really, launch is an umbrella word for wrestling with change. And when we think about right now, as perspectives, you're launching into your business school careers, that's exciting, and it can be a little scary because it's new, it's change, and we are all uncomfortable with change. How do we wrestle with that? And by having the right mindset, instead, we tend to just shift directly to the tactics, but with the launch book, I like us to take us back to what's the mindset. One, thinking through, is it aligned with who you are? And that's an aspect of self-awareness. Do you know who you are? Do you know what your values are? And how is whatever you're launching in alignment, or can be reframed to be in alignment with that? Two, we talked about teams. So the idea of having, why should any launch be a solo endeavor? We never succeed alone, and we never get back alone, on our feet again alone after we fall down. So this idea of team and the launch tribe is important. And then the third aspect is to be able to pivot and reframe and understand that what we imagine to be possible now, what are we not imagining? Are there greater opportunities that we haven't thought about? And again, we discover that through looking at launch as a discovery process and with a tribe. And then the last thing is taking a page from Coach K's book, which is Next Play, and thinking about being generous every step of the way, and then not resting on our laurels, but looking forward, and also not resting on our failures. So it's reframing a different relationship with failure. Failure as a learning opportunity rather than as a destination. So thank you, Teju, for raising that. With regards to the Coach K Center, Coach K Center on Leadership and Ethics, Cole, let's see, are there other questions that we haven't, that we might have not covered? So we talked about the co-fellows. We talked about how students might be able to engage. We talked about the origin story for the center. And we talked about the end-to-end process.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I also want to mention that as much good as we do within Fuqua, Cole also has its hands in different parts outside of Fuqua. We add our impact, our ideas to the national discourse on issues of consequence. Sanyin has written a lot of great articles that have been featured in Fortune, Forbes, LinkedIn. All of these are available on our website, cole@duke.org. That's about it.
On
What
that
else?
national discourse, one really cool thing I would like to mention is also our faculty director, Sim Sikken. He had started behavioral
Science
and Policy Association, which is looking at how behavioral science can improve the human condition. And so with his organization, they are constantly partnering up with government organizations to look at how behavioral science and leadership in particular can help aid those agencies in achieving their missions. So there's a wonderful team at Cole. I mean, John Graham, his work on the CFO survey is now looking at culture. So John Graham, who's a faculty in the finance field, is a Sender Scholar, and just last year he represented Fuqua at the Wall Street Journal Summit for CEOs. And Chris Moorman, who is a marketing faculty here, her work on the CMO survey is also raising a lot of, gaining a lot of prominence in understanding how CMOs are thinking today. So be sure to check out their research and their work. So. Great. Well, we would love to thank everyone for joining us today. And if you have additional questions about Cole, there's the Cole website, which is
cole@duke.org.
cole@duke.org. We also have a LinkedIn page, Fuqua Coach K Center on Leadership and Ethics, and we also have a Facebook page and a Twitter account, which is
@DukeCole3.
So there's lots of ways of getting in touch with us and learning about our center and the work that we do. We look forward to hearing from you.
Yep, and welcoming you here as the next class of Fuqua students.